once again to the Kindred UMC live show. Coming to you, not live, but pre-recorded, not for long, hopefully, from Kindred Studio A, aka my front room. My name is Chris Hayden. I'm the pastor of Kindred UMC.
Hi, I'm Courtney Young. I'm the Director of Community Engagement at Kindred UMC.
And I'm Preston, and by my unnoticeably small hat, it is a tribute to Bobby Bowden, who has left us recently.
Bobby Bowden.
Yeah. Rest in peace, old friend, and dagnabbit to you. He's a dagnabbiter.
He's a dagnabber for sure. So it's been a minute because we had to pre-record stuff for being out of town and whatnot. We're back. Hopefully you have not noticed a lull at all. And we are continuing our series on the 10 Commandments called 10 Rules for a Better Life. We have crossed the threshold. So the 10 Commandments are about be faithfully obedient to Yahweh. Okay, how do we do that? Well, the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, great. Can we get more specific on that? The first half of the 10 Commandments focus a lot on how do you love the Lord your God? Well, put no other gods before me. Don't put me in a box or make an idol out of me. Don't use my name for vain purposes. Don't try to use me to get out of the horrible things that you've done. Now we're crossing the threshold into the how do you love your neighbor as yourself? How do we treat each other?
Huh.
Yeah. All right. And we established last week there's the law about the Sabbath, which is no male, no female, no slave, no servant, no pack animal, no anybody shall work on the Sabbath day, and how egalitarian that was. That was a new concept historically to say that everyone, regardless of their social status, regardless of their indebtedness, regardless even of their species, if like even the donkeys get a break on Saturday, you cannot make someone work tirelessly forever. And how that's like a prolific revolutionary idea in this particular historical time. Excuse me. Now, we come to Exodus chapter 20, verse 12. Goes like this. This is, I believe, the fifth commandment. Honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that Yahweh Elohim, the Lord your God, is giving you. So, honor your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that God is giving you. What do you make of that one?
I have my initial gut reaction, which my first gut reaction was, oh boy. And then as you're reading it, I thought about it, and the thought that immediately pops into my head is when people talk about this, they tend to talk like black and white, follow the rules, listen to your parents, do what they say. Okay. And I don't think that that's what this means.
How come? Say more about that.
Because I think that honoring your father and mother, you can be respectful, but part of having a mutual loving relationship with any other figure, whether it's a friend, whether it's a boss, whether it's your parents, is by being honest and setting boundaries and having that open communication. And so just because I'm supposed to honor my mom and dad doesn't mean that I have to like or agree with everything that they say.
Oh.
And that's how I feel about that as of right now.
Okay. That's good exegesis.
Nice.
That's good exegesis.
Thank you.
Preston, have you any thoughts about this particular text?
Yes.
Would you like to share them with the world?
Maybe not. No. In Eastern philosophy, if we're going to dive into our huge world, honor doesn't necessarily mean follow rules. It means keep the code between you and other.
Okay.
So, like an honor kill in like samurai society was
Harry Carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Commit Harry Carry. That was.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I love Harry Carry. Also rest in peace.
Sportscaster. Yeah. Rest in power, Harry Carry. But yeah, it was a samurai suicide.
I did not know that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Doodly noted.
I don't think that's
duty. what I'm saying is, rule followers are tattletales, and we should not like them. No,
That's my point. I guess my point is, I hate you.
Yes. So you focus more on the mother and father black and white part, and I'm focusing more on the word honor itself and what's derived from it.
I think you're both saying something very similar. And so I'll boil this down, because one of the things that's very difficult about scripture is that people, like, when you start reading the Bible, you start going like, I don't know. You're actually picking up on a very good exegetical technique, which is, you haven't heard what you've been told. You've listened exactly to the text, and you're zeroing in on the word honor. So, like, a lot of people just presume that means children, do what your parents say, you know? And what you're picking up on, maybe you haven't like done the literal gymnastics to get there, but you're naturally picking up on it, which is great. It doesn't say mindlessly obey your parents. It says honor your father and your mother. And the word honor is what you're picking up on. It's a hyper-specific term. And in fact, in Hebrew, and I can't remember the actual Hebrew word, but the translation for that word honor, the Hebrew word that means honor, it actually literally means add weight. So, like, one very literal translation for all the people out there who are talking about how we should interpret the Bible literally, okay, well then if that's the case, then this text literally says, fatten up your father and your mother, so that your days may be long in the land that the Lord has given you.
Confirmed.
Yeah. So, but it's not. That's, again, like we said with the taking the name in vain, that seems like a weird thing to make it to the top 10. Fatten up your father and mother. This is a turn of phrase, and the like add weight. It means to honor them, or to spare them from disrespect, to spare them from dishonor, to actively add something meaningful to their existence. Okay?
Or lineage, if you want to be like physical.
Yeah. So I like what you guys are saying, because you're literally picking up on what I think is the heart of this. Okay. So the other important facet of this particular text that I want to lift up is, and similar to what we talked about last week, it's very easy to, all of this has to be couched in a cultural context and a historical context. You have to compare these laws, Yahweh's laws, with the laws that currently exist as these are being written. Right. So similar to what we did last week, the Sabbath, every other law at the time had different repercussions for different classes of people, and that was a really progressive and revolutionary thing to say, no matter what class, or no matter how wealthy, or no matter what, you all get a break. It was this very egalitarian, very equalizing law. And it's a statement about God's character. This is a different kind of God who cares about all people equally. Okay? So similarly, we have to think about, it says, whom do we honor?
Your mother and father.
Right. Who does everyone else honor? And in fact, up until this point, who do Israelites honor?
Their Father from heaven. Or
not just from heaven.
Their father, not their mother.
Right. This is a society where women, they're not exactly property, but they're not exactly fully human either. You know?
Not property.
Like, it's not a good look, and also that is consistent with many other cultures and tribes and law systems of the time. The idea that this law says, honor your father and your mother, is revolutionary. Mm-hmm. It's a progressive, it's a radically liberal, progressive thing to say, and it's right there in the top 10. In fact, it's the first one that has to do with what does it mean to love your neighbor as yourself? Well, first of all, honor your mother and your father. Honor both of them, you know? Don't just do this stuff where you're all concerned with the males. Like, honor your father and your mother. The other thing that I will add to this is I think it's very easy to hear this, particularly because anybody who grows up in the church, like, why would you teach this to kids in the church? Because you want them to obey their parents, right?
Behave.
And so we tend, or at least as best I can tell, we tend to hear this through the lens of, all right, little children, do what your parents say because they have your best interest in heart. And that's a wonderful, there's nothing wrong with that. That's wonderful, except for in the cases of abuse and like, you know, there's all kinds of like complicating factors involved in that. But that's actually not what this was intended to be. The other cultural thing that's happening in this time is that in a tribe or in a society, your value is in what you can bring to the table. So if you can work the fields, if you can hunt, if you can sew, if you can make babies, if you can, whatever, you know, you're bringing something valuable to the tribe.
Or give knowledge about those things too. That's kind of looked over sometimes. Like some can do it.
It is looked over in this time.
Never mind.
That's you're on the right track. Okay. I think you're on the right track. That is kind of the problem. Once you get to an age where you cannot bear children, you cannot work the fields, you cannot hunt, you cannot provide anything of value to the tribe, then why in the world would we feed you? Like, go wander out into the wilderness and die with honor. Like, go ahead, like, kill yourself. Like, you're not bringing anything of value to the tribe. And here we have this law that we think is going to children, but it's actually going to adults of elderly parents. That says, hey, everyone, honor your father and your mother so that your days may be long in the land that I give you. This is about elderly people. This is about
so your days may be long.
Adding weight to the people who have no value to the tribe, because the value of every human being is in the inherent image of God that is implanted upon every human soul.
And worth it.
Yeah, so this is not about like, hey, do what your parents say, as much as it is about every human soul, male or female, elderly or not. Your job is to honor every human soul, and especially the ones who don't apparently have value. And it goes to what you were saying, like, this begins to give way to like elders, like tribal elders. And suddenly people who have lived a long time are starting to be appreciated for things other than hunting meat or growing crops or mending, cloaks or bearing children or whatever. So this is actually, again, a very strong statement about what kind of God we're worshiping. So, I guess, what's your reaction to that? Like,
I have one.
Yeah, okay.
It speaks very much to like your ancestors. Again, very Eastern philosophy-y sounding, but mother and father sounds, in your words, black and white. It sounds like your biologicals, where they also have a father and mother. Everyone has. You wouldn't be here without either, depending on science and whatever's happening.
Yeah, without modern interventions. Yeah.
But to spin that in a modern look of life, now there's always the weird fascination with forgetting history. So not focusing on what went wrong and how are we learning from this, but we stick to just learning from instead of focusing on where we're learning from. What was the problem? What did we solve? And then, is this happening again? Why are we copying and pasting solutions versus just focusing on what went wrong?
Yeah, well, I think our generation, I'm on the older end of that for sure, but I'm technically a millennial. Millennial Generation is kind of obsessed with like do better, which has all kinds of benefits to it, has all kinds of like great things. Like we've made, I think, more social progress in my lifetime than maybe historically we ever have. It also comes at a cost with, there's something about prestige points and call out culture. And we're no longer looking for actual problems to solve, but instead we're looking for credit for being able to point at and shame. And like that can certainly be a real problem. So like one of the things that occurs to me that rose for me as I read this, like, because the ultimate question, I'll pose it. I'm gonna ask the question, and I'm gonna answer my version of it. The ultimate question that I think this asks of us: who are the people in society that you kind of despise or see as worthless? Because that's what this commandment begs of us.
This is a commentable answer, by the way.
And how will you add weight and honor them? That's what this commandment is. How do you honor the people that you think are not adding value? And for me, like I'm very frustrated with the anti-vax stuff because it's literally costing people lives, and just on a very petty, selfish, like we were out in public and I had gotten used to not wearing a mask, and I didn't grab a mask before we left the house. And we were out, and then I saw the people I was with put on their mask, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. We're back here again." Mm-hmm. And I have a resentment, and it is so tempting to just write those people off to their own fate. And that's something I need to confess and repent. Like that's not. I do not agree with what they're saying. You should get vaccinated. If you haven't been vaccinated, you are costing people their lives, and like you need to do something about it. Hear that strongly. And also that does not recuse you from the grace of God and from inclusion in the community of God's people.
AKA respect and this word honor.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and if you really disagree with me, then by all means we can have words, but I will not reject you as someone who does not bear the image of God and someone who's not my sibling in the church, in the community at large. Like, and that is the temptation. That is the temptation, to write off the people that we think are not valuable.
It's easy.
Yeah, I think for me right now, because it took me a second, and I was like, no. And I think the place that I'm at right now, the kind of people that I resent and get particularly frustrated by are people in big box Christian churches that are actively making my job more difficult. So people that are coming for people I love and telling people that because, God and the Bible are a thing, they can't be gay, or they don't have a place here, or they have to do this, that, and the other to fit in. Like people that actively push narratives that challenge everything that I work so hard to dismantle.
I would say that the words that we say, which are, that's not true and that's not how we feel, and there is a wide entire world of different interpretation that I adhere to, that includes you as a natural and lovely part of creation. No matter how, like, those words just are not quite as powerful as someone from the church saying the opposite.
Yeah, and
when
I'm not
someone
just
says
talking
the
about
opposite, it's like tenfold harder.
Yeah, and I'm not just talking about LGBTQ. I'm also talking about, racism comments, people who make people less than because of their political beliefs. Anybody who tells somebody that I love and care for that they don't belong,
Yeah.
I tend to have a huge amount of resentment towards.
Yeah, we're very bad these days at disagreeing and still participating in community. It's like, if you don't agree with me, then I can't even know you. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's the exact opposite of the Jesus that I know.
And I think
I can't say that hard enough. That's the exact opposite of the Jesus I know. The Jesus I know is the one who's saying, you don't have to have it right. We don't have to agree. That's not the point. The point isn't that we all think the same and end up on the same page.
we can be for everyone and not for how we think
In fact,
and view the world.
that is part of the loveliness of the table of communion. None of us deserve to be here, and yet we are all like enthusiastically invited and encouraged to take part. That's the point. Like, and when we start to put ourselves into, I actually am righter than you. I actually am more righteous and better and righter than you. And that's why I know we all don't all deserve to be at this table of communion, but let's face it. If we did lower the bar, like, I would deserve to be here more than you. You know?
Right.
I mean, come on. I'm better than you, though. And there's a lot of that shit going on in the church.
Blindly.
In Christianity.
Yeah.
And we're called to be the people of the exact polar opposite of that. And yet we are caught up in it.
Yeah, so anyone that excludes people, or as I often describe it, actively makes my job more fucking difficult, like, that's where I find resentment and frustration. And I'm realizing that just means I need to, allow myself to sit in those things.
And yet, you are also called to share a table with the people who do that.
Yep.
And that's that's the ultimate.
It's even more challenging.
That's the calling, that's
point.
what we signed up for. And it's like, I can't accept the grace that I need to be healed and then not extend that grace to the people that I have a hard time with.
Right.
I mean, I can.
But are you really?
But come on, but that's no way to live. That's no way to be whole. That's no way to experience life and grace. That's not cooperating with the thing that's healing you. And yet that seems to be what we do.
And I think where it gets particularly tough, at least for me and in my example, is so much of my resentment towards these people comes from a place of being that person that was excluded and being that person that was looked down on and
it
told
touches
not
the places
enough.
that you're
right. So it's not
pained.
just, oh, I don't like you. It's, no, I've had purpose
you're hurting me again.
Interactions of your othering, and now I see you othering other people that I care about, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? We're kind of right up time. I don't want to cut anybody off. All right. Well, I think we got there. Who is the other for you? And what would it look like to add weight, or to honor, or to somehow extend a hand and treat with respect? So may the Lord make you. It's been a long day. I had to fix the dryer. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Stop this train. I wanna get